This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
So I'm a recovered kind of pedal junkie to some extent. I'm probably not as bad as some people, but I was kind of talking to Keith from 5 Watt World around ideas about, if you could sell everything or swap it all for cash, what would you buy back again? What things would you keep? And actually in the pedal world, this is somewhere where I feel like I've had a lot of stuff, and I've actually kind of weaned it back quite a lot, to the point where the only real extravagant thing I still have is the Van Wilden Royal Overdrive. Now, all of the pedals that I've still got here, really, I'm not really counting the HX Stomp, Eventide H90, that sort of stuff, or things that have been sent to me for free. because that doesn't really count. So this is kind of about stuff that I've kept or bought or whatever, except for one of these pedals, but I'll tell you which that is. So first of all, I wanted to start on the kind of soft clipping side. The Marshall Blues Breaker was reissued recently-ish, and I think it sounds really, really good for that kind of softer, slightly broken up, really nice kind of gain lead boost. You know, sounds great with a Strat, thickening up a Strat into an amp or into whatever. This, my wife bought me as a push present, a few months after we had our kid. She thought, well, I think she spoke to Beebs and he said, yeah, do you want to like that? I think it's a great sounding pedal. It's a bit bulky for a board, but I think the Marshall Blues Breaker, to me, I prefer to the like Prince of Tone, King of Tone type things. It seems to me that this actually gets all of it right. What can it do well? Yeah, that slight kind of gain push. As you can see, this is where the knobs were set, basically all at about 2 o'clock. There's nothing wild that this pedal will do, but it does sound really good with a Strat and thickens up those single coils really nicely. I think then I went into the humble Boss Blues Driver. Now you see some people online saying that these are overrated. Other people will tell you they're an amazing drive pedal. I kind of am in the latter group. If you're finding that you don't get great tones out of it, maybe you don't like the Blues Driver, and that's totally fine. But what I find as a starting point is probably to have that tone at about 9 o'clock. This pedal I don't think needs particularly modding or tweaking, and so for me the Blues Driver BD2 would be one that I would grab rather than a boutique version of it, to be honest. Also on that note, the Boss Angry Driver is something that I have on my actual pedal board for live. My pedal board live includes the Angry Driver, a Keeley Tone workstation, an HX Stomp, and another pedal coming later. But the Angry Driver is on the board, so I didn't want to take that off. But essentially I used the Marshall Governor side of that. If I didn't have that pedal, I think I would have something Marshall Governor-esque, because that's kind of where I build my rhythm tone from these days in front of an amp, and then boost on top of that for a lead. But yeah, the Boss Blues Driver, a really versatile pedal, can do the transparent kind of gain boost thing beautifully, or you can crank the gain and get some really great tones out of it and plenty of gain. Has quite a lot of top end, and as I say, that's why that tone starting point for me is more like 9 o'clock rather than 12 o'clock. But a great sounding pedal. Then I think getting into some harder clipping stuff, the Rat, I bought this off of my buddy Gary from up the road, and I'm actually, this is one of the earlier hard clipping circuits, and I think it's kind of, for me, become more important to have something closer to what anyone else can grab. You can get these inexpensively. It worked for Nuno Betancourt, it worked for Schofield, not Phil. It worked for loads of players, Graham Coxon, and I find actually with that filter control all the way up is basically where things work really nicely for me personally. But there's loads of gain on tap if you want it, or can just do the boosting like Nuno. But I think, can it be underrated? It's a classic for a reason, I guess, is probably the real point. The filter knob would go on to be used on classic pedal the Timmy, which would then go on to be used in the January. But that specific part of the circuit, I think, got co-opted by Paul Cochrane, such is the nature of pedal building. This pedal doesn't really work properly. I can't bypass it. Tony from up the road did try to fix it for me, and he took a lot of time, but to no avail. It does work when it's actually not bypassed. Engaged, that'd be the word. I really love the SD9. I did a video on it recently, but I think it's a really, really great lead tone in a pedal, super responsive to picking. Again, similar to the Boss Blues Driver, set that tone at about 9 o'clock to start. People that know about this pedal, Wayne Krantz, Michael Landau, Scott Henderson, you can get more boutique versions of it, but again, for me, the stock version is perfectly fine. This is an older pedal, like 80s original, but obviously it doesn't work, so it's not a match value, but to me, I think it's a great sounding pedal. This one is on the shelf for sentimental reasons more than anything, but it's the Alan Holdsworth J Rocket pedal. This is like a drive and a boost with lots of kind of switches. The biggest thing I noticed was that it was putting out a load of output compared to the other pedals, and is dual, so kind of versatile in that regard, and compact. Could definitely work on a pedal board. It's kind of heavy, built like a brick, but yeah, for sentimental reasons more than anything else, if you've been looking for one of these and you want one, I'd be happy to sell it to you for a reasonable price if you need to have one. What it actually does, it doesn't really get you anywhere near the tone of Alan Holdsworth, but it is kind of a drive and boosting one that is pretty versatile. I need to look up what it's actually based on, because I'm fairly confident that it's probably some fairly normal circuits. Tube Screamer flavoured stuff. The David Barber, Keith Williams, 5-Watt World collaboration, the bus. Basically, you've got a blues breaker type circuit here, which is not totally dissimilar to that, but I think more what they were going for was the Beano sound rather than that blues breaker pedal itself. And then this side we've got a Dumble ODS-ish thing going on, which is what I was using in the video there. This actually kicked J-Rocket the Dude off of my board, which was one of my favourite drive pedals, but I felt like this into a real amp just felt and sounded a bit more organic. I think you can grab these from the Reverb shop, but yeah, they sent that one over. This is on my live board as well. Sort of use it, the light amount of drive to kind of kick my rhythm tone into my lead tone. I use that on the blues breaker side, but yeah, that is kind of my Tube Screamer flavoured thing. The last thing that I used in the video was the Tate FX Raise the Dead. Now I've got a few of Tate FX's pedals that I bought. I think I bought this one off him at a trade show, and he may have sent this one. Then yeah, I don't really have much in the way of fuzz pedals. I do have a Pete Cornish fuzz, but Mick from that pedal show has it at the moment, and it doesn't look like he's ever giving it back. Hope you're enjoying it, Mick. But yeah, this one I bought from, what's his name, Stuart. I was calling him Drew at the actual show, but his name is Stuart. And this is also sort of like a Tube Screamer, kind of like the Voodoo Labs version where you've got a clean blend, so you can have that clean blended in or not. But as I've found that Tube Screamers are a thing that I kind of had a lot riding on for a bit, and then kind of decided actually I've not found them as useful for live. I use a clean amp and the Marshall Governor or something that actually does full kind of drive tones without the mid hump has actually been more useful for building the kind of rhythm tones. But for boutiquey stuff, Tate FX and David Barber. I've also tried the David Barber Burn unit, which sounds incredible. So I think a genuine boutique builder, both of these guys, genuine boutique builders who are building in small quantities. So I think kind of cool from that regard. Whether they are ever worth tons of money or anything is a different consideration. And then also I've got that Van Wielden Royal Overdrive, which sits up there. I've got also a Ibanez Metal Screamer, which is basically like the TS10. But as I say, Tube Screamers aren't things that I'm using a lot at the moment. So that's kind of what I've got that I think of as part of my collection. There's not really anything too flash there going on. Gone are the days of me kind of thinking about my pedal collection as something that is particularly impressive, because yeah, all of this is fairly normal stuff, I think. Nothing here that would be crazy expensive except for this and the Pete Cornish, which is not here. Yeah, and I've started to more enjoy the idea of just getting good sounds out of normal stuff like Prince used to, for example. Let me know what's in your collection, if you think of it as a collection. Does this stuff change for you regularly? There were things like the Dude and the Ibanez TS10 that I thought maybe I'd never sell, but as it is, actually, I don't really miss them either. And it's more now about pedals that are actually slightly different to each other. You know, getting some of the flavours of the classics maybe, rather than having one of everything or things that are super collectible. That's kind of not what it's about for me anymore. I don't know, was that interesting? Probably not. Cheers for stopping by.